Gaming Discourse. I am Tyler Frater, alongside Richard A. the Cruz, who is not here today, and Chief Engineer Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
Good evening.
It is Monday, December 9th, 2024. Follow us at youtube.com/gamingdiscourse, patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse. You can support us for $247, $10. Get your name in the video credits, early access to our videos, access to our Discord server, and more. We've got lots of stuff to talk about today. It's just Connor and I, and we're over Zoom. There's sickness, there's car problems, cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria, but we're going to do our best to talk news and stuff. I am working on a review right now of an indie game called Valley of Shadows. It's out. I won't get into too many of my thoughts on the game. I'm kind of going to save that for the review, but yeah, I'll just say off the top, it's a good game. It's very good. It's a puzzler / narrative game. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I'll have much more to say. What's interesting about the game is that it includes real life. It's autobiographical and includes real life photos and home videos of the developer's life, and it's developed by three siblings: Anthony Vaccaro, Nick Vaccaro, and Maria Vaccaro. So it's developed by three siblings.
Two brothers.
Yeah, two brothers and a sister. No, but three siblings, and it's about sort of their life and their upbringing and stuff like that. But yeah, recommend it. I'll have more to say in the review. Working on it right now. I'm gonna try to get it out this week, but we'll see. We'll see. I've got a lot written. I'll have a lot to clean up. I have a lot to finish. I want to finish it as soon as possible because the next game I want to try and review, Alien Rogue Incursion, comes out on the 19th. So yeah, trying to work that. But if not by the end of this week, definitely before like the end of next week, 100% I'll have something out. But yeah, really trying to get something out before then. Go check out my recent interview with Professor Tori Olson, where we talk about Red Dead Redemption 2 and history. He's the history professor at the University of Tennessee that taught a class on it. Go check that out. Have I released a video since then? I don't think so. I don't know what else I've done, but yeah, so go check those out. Support us. Give us tons of money. Give us $1,000 a day on Patreon. I'll create that tier, and it'll be fine. I know everybody can afford it. Okay, so let's talk about. I've been playing a crap ton of games. Indiana Jones came out. Have not had a chance. I think I'm going to play it on Game Pass maybe tomorrow because everybody's saying it's really good. But Connor, what have you been playing?
I haven't been playing a lot. I've been taking care of my partner who is sick. So I've been spending some time in Stardew Valley while taking care of her.
Has she considered that she's cutting into your game time and maybe she should not be sick because of that?
Genuinely, she has.
Knowing her, that sounds like a consideration she would make.
She genuinely feels bad that I'm taking care of her because she knows I like playing video games, and me taking care of her isn't playing video games. And I have to remind her that she's more important than video games.
I don't want to put any pressure on anybody, but in the words of Beyonce, you may want to put a ring on it, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm not gonna say, it's fine. It's fine. If that's her reaction to being sick, well, that's very nice of her. Tell her thank you, and to please get well and stop being such an inconvenience for your gaming. I'm kidding.
I will definitely not say that to
her. Okay. Sorry. So just Stardew Valley. Anything else?
Yeah.
Sorry. Anything else notable?
No.
Okay.
I progressed my new Mass Effect run a tiny bit, but.
Do you think you're gonna finish all three games again?
Probably.
Yeah.
So
these are like two things that I forget about you. One, I had no idea you were a Gold League player back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
No idea.
Which isn't all that impressive, but the impressive part that you're leaving off is that I was a solo support.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Which is like
I hated myself so much that I willingly put myself in toxic relationships in and out of League.
But there was that, and then there's also you are a closet like Mass Effect big time fan because you play through all three games almost every year, if not every other year.
I mean, the games are good. People put a lot of weight And it's understandable. People put a lot of weight on the ending of Mass Effect 3.
Yes.
But that does not take away from the rest of the games.
Mm-hmm.
Mass Effect 2 is still one of the best stories in a video game put out. Mass Effect 1 really builds up one of the best sci-fi fantasy settings that we've had in video games to date. And Mass Effect 3, up until the very end, was a satisfying story.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe I should do it. I don't know.
You absolutely should.
Because I haven't. Because it's been a long time, and I'm sure there's all kinds of stuff I forgot about. But yeah, just that the ending of Mass Effect 3, and maybe I should confront this.
Spoilers for a game that came out over a decade ago. But the decisions that you make and the decisions that you help other characters make in Mass Effect 3, like Mordin coming to terms with his work on the genophage and sacrificing himself to end it. Legion sacrificing himself to ensure peace between the Geth and the Quarians. These big pivotal moments that were really, really well done and haven't really been replicated since get overshadowed by the choose your own adventure ending.
Yeah.
Which they really should overshadow that because of how impactful these moments were for this story.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I should go back and do a reevaluation. It's just
Plus,
I know
if you do the Legendary
that,
Edition, you get all the DLC.
Yeah, which is a lot of stuff.
You will get new content because I know we didn't have the DLC for 1 and 2, and you probably didn't play. I mean, you only did one run through of 3, so you didn't play through the DLC of 3. So you'll get to experience some new stuff there too.
Yeah.
So there is new content for you, and the game does look better. Not a whole lot better, but the game does look better than it did back in 2007 when Mass Effect 1 first came out.
I wonder how it runs on the Steam Deck. That's something
probably good.
Probably pretty good.
Yeah,
I'll have to look up. And it's controller compatible, so that shouldn't be something that I have to worry about. When you launch it through Steam, does EA fuck around and make you launch Origin?
Oh, I'm not playing on PS5.
Oh, you're paying on PS5. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if if you launch it.
Mass Effect 1 and 2, I know, are on Steam.
But the Legendary Edition is as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know about the Legendary Edition, but I know if you just go back, because you can import a normal Mass Effect save into the Legendary. So if you were to go back and you avoid Origin as much as possible, you can play 1 and 2 on Steam.
Well, it's not Origin anymore, is it? It's just EA.
Whatever EA's bullshit is.
Yeah, whatever it is. It's horrible, and they should get rid of it. They should execute it in the street somewhere.
Or pick it up on PS5 and just play it there.
Yeah, maybe I can find a physical copy. That'd be kind of neat. I don't know. Anyway, now I'm just talking about buying video games. So
on our video game podcast.
Yeah. So let's see. What have I've been playing a lot of stuff. I picked up V Rising to play with Hazel. We've been doing that. It's pretty fun. It's so far it's a pretty relatively standard, at least as I've encountered it, relatively standard survival action game. The combat is pretty close to like a slower version of Diablo, and the survival building mechanic is pretty standard. You know, you chop down trees to get wood, you chop rocks to get stones, you put those in little like tanneries or rock grinders that make other things that then you use to build other things, so it goes that way. You play as a vampire, so you have a blood gauge that you have to refill by drinking something's blood, and if you don't drink something's blood, eventually you'll start to lose health, so you kind of have to. So actually being a vampire actually better fits the survival action game formula because those sort of games are all about like siphoning resources from the world to like better your own standing somehow. So in a similar way where Satisfactory is about chopping down trees to put in smokestacks. But so in that way it's sort of a corporate way of looking at it, and this way and that was the thing about vampires, and I think like I'd have to look back on it, but I think like one of the major themes in vampire lore is the sort of a person who like siphons the resources and the willpower from like, everyday people, right? Because I don't know in fiction how often a vampire. I mean, I this is probably overstated, but like oftentimes in fiction, vampires are like super powerful. Like I don't know how many times. I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but I don't know how many times a vampire is like some dude who is down on his luck and doesn't have a job and he happens to be a vampire. It's always a guy that's like, you know, he's like the CEO of a company or a king and he's secretly also a vampire, you know, so he's already in a position.
The only
Of,
character
like,
that I can think of that's a vampire that's like down on his luck is Lestat in Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, because he's like super old and trying to find his way, and that's also, I'm not a fan of that movie because I think it's kind of silly how at the end he's Tom Cruise still has his like 1700s shirt on.
Yeah,
It's worn out, but still, it's like that shirt's like 200 years, like almost 300 years old.
yeah.
It's like that thing has just crumbled. There's no way. It just
I want to know
like a lightly
who
ripped.
his tailors were, because they have secrets that they pass down to their apprentices that we need to know about.
Right. But anyway, so playing that. Let's see what else. More Dragon Age Veilguard. I started it, I liked it, started to slow down. I was like, yeah, I don't know. And then I got back into it and I started to like it more. I played some of the main quest line. The main quest line that I played was very good. The writing picked up, the writing did get better. There is a lot of the, like we talked about, we were talking about in our Discord, there is a lot of informality.
Guardians of the Galaxy, Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah, for informality. Your Aaron Sorkin writing. So if you've ever watched like The West Wing or Newsroom or whatever, any of his other shows where it's very fast beat, all the characters are sort of quippy and funny, and it's very energetic, you know, and it's like moving, it's going, it's this way, it's that way.
Walk and talk.
Yeah, Walk and Talk, which is famous in The West Wing. There's a little bit of that. And then obviously in Marvel, it's very informal, it's very sarcastic, it's very like fun. It tries to be like
a little tongue in cheek,
laid back, you know, that happened, that kind of thing. Or, you know, excuse, like, I don't know, whatever. Little jokes here and there that, I don't know, I guess work in the Marvel movies, but in the Dragon Age world doesn't really make sense, doesn't really jive, I don't think. And so there's lots of discussion about that, and it's all very valid because the writing does bother me. But it's not that the game doesn't have teeth, the dialogue doesn't have teeth. It's just I don't think it bears its fangs nearly as much as the previous Dragon Age games did. And yeah, that's kind of regretful because I think that they were better for that. And writing is better for having a little bite, you know, a little kick to it. You know, we talked about, I joked that we should ban the Sorkin informality, and but it's like, no, we shouldn't ban it, but I do think that it's oversaturated kind of, or it's become sort of a crutch or something like that. And that needs to stop happening.
your opinions on the Sorkin style writing are my opinions on the big orchestral swells in movies. We need to stop relying on them so heavily.
Sure. But yeah, so I'm enjoying it. Getting to know the characters more, and I don't know if I'll switch back to Black Myth because I was really enjoying Black Myth and I got pretty far in Black Myth. And so I've kind of swapped back and forth between the two. Like I've played Black Myth for like a week, went back to Dragon Age Veilguard, went back. So I've gone back and forth kind of. No idea how long I'll do that
Play
for.
A better BioWare franchise.
Well, I got to finish Veilguard. I have to. And then I got to play Indiana Jones. And then, other than that, a little more Balatro. And then I was playing Path of Exile 2 as well. So PoE 2, I played a little bit of Path of Exile. I didn't get super into it. Path of Exile 2 seems pretty good so far. I'm playing as a monk. There's a couple different, there's like a monk, witch, sorcerer, warrior. I forget all the different classes. But The skill tree is obviously huge, but it's a pretty good. So far, I'm having it. It's an action RPG in the vein of Diablo. The pacing feels very similar. The world structure feels very similar. But yeah, the thing with Path of Exile is there's all kinds of ways to build your character, all kinds of ways to contour your abilities and stuff like that, and a massive skill tree with tons of directions you can go. And I'm playing as a monk, and my monk has this really cool ability where I will do a couple of attacks, and then I slam a giant bell on the ground. And if I hit this bell, it does an AoE attack and it rings. It's like a huge bell. But if someone hits that bell with an elemental attack, like one of my allies, the bell will, say if they hit it with frost, the bell will freeze. And then when you hit it, it rings and it does a frost AoE attack. So it's really cool. So I kind of have to place it. So it's like I have to build up enough energy to place it. So I have to do like 4 basic attacks. Then I place it. Then I attack the bell, which does damage to enemies around it. So it's pretty cool playing as a monk, because as a monk, I kind of like dash into enemies, do a couple of attacks, toss down my bell, throw out all the other attacks I can. And yeah, it's fun. It's very, like Aaron Sorkin, playing as a monk is very energetic and quick paced, because I dive into combat, don't have a ton of health. So dive into combat, attack, and then bail out and sort of allow myself to regroup and have my abilities get back and get ready to go again. So yeah, I having fun with that, but I haven't really been able to played a couple tough bosses. It seems like it's structured similar to a Souls-like, where you have your like respawn points, and if you die, you spawn at that respawn point. But people are saying the game's really hard, and it might be, but playing with 4 people, it doesn't seem like notably difficult. It seems there's like an average difficulty there. I don't know. So if you're playing by yourself or with another person, maybe it's a lot harder, but with 4 people, we ran through a couple bosses and it wasn't all that difficult. Maybe it's the early bosses, maybe later on things get way more intense. I'll have to see. But yeah, and Path of Exile 2 is a big success already. I think the servers have been chugging, and there was like hundreds of thousands of people online or something like that. So yeah, good for grinding your games. Obviously, it's going to be, right now it's paid access, but it's going to be a free-to-play title in like a year or so. So there's lots of like free-to-play shenanigans that I don't like that we could talk about, but that can be a topic for another day. Yeah, but that's basically it. Is there anything you wanted to say before we hit the ad and talk some news?
No, I think we're good to move on.
Okay. Thanks for listening. If you like our content, please consider subscribing or leaving a like and comment. You can find us at patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse. And our tiers are $2, $4, $7, and $10 and include getting your name in the video credits, early access, and access to our Discord server. XDefiant is shutting down. This, I believe, was first reported by Tom Henderson at Insider Gaming. Let me make sure I got his name correct. I believe it's Tom Henderson. Yes, Tom Henderson at Insider Gaming. And then Stephen Totillo posted on Blue Sky the same day. I'm not sure who reported it first. I'm going to say it was Henderson, and then reports started to sort of pour out later in the day. It's happening due to poor player numbers and a lack of player spending. Insider Gaming says Ubisoft, San Francisco, and Osaka will close. 277 people will lose their jobs, and that was also reported by Totillo. Insider Gaming previously reported on a toxic workplace around XDefiant's development. There was crunch, general toxicity, sort of the I hate to call it generic, but it is sort of the general stuff that has been reported about various game studios over the years. XDefiant executive producer Mark Rubin confirmed that the game was shutting down, I believe on Twitter. On a blog post shortly after. I'm going to read it right here. Quote, read a part of it. Quote, a few years ago, Ubisoft and the San Francisco development team embarked on a bold adventure to develop a new arcade shooter called XDefiant. It was from the start an incredible challenge. Not only were we trying to shake up the genre by removing skill-based matchmaking while bringing back a more old-school arcade shooter experience, but we were also driving into the high-risk, high-reward realm of free-to-play. And for that, I applaud not only the dev team, but also Ubisoft leadership for taking that chance. Okay. We have another Ubisoft story we'll talk about in a second. What is your reaction to this? What's our sort of knee-jerk response? What do you think?
This could have been avoided if they didn't make another not free to play, but live action. Well, no free to play, another live service game that nobody wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that's probably that's the thing is I think a lot of even some games that are successful nobody wants, and I know that sounds weird, but yeah, the idea of like going after Call of Duty just doesn't make sense to me, especially with the position that Ubisoft is in. I don't know. That's such a massive mountain to try and climb. It just seems, I don't know. It just seems like they say high risk, high reward, which is a phrase we'll talk about here in a second. But that's such a high risk that it's just like, I don't know. Why not try anything? I don't know. Can you not set your sights a little bit more realistic? I don't know. XDefiant was also very generic, which Call of Duty is generic, but Call of Duty just has tons of momentum behind it because it has a massive casual audience. So it skates off that. It doesn't have to worry about being generic and sort of lifeless and soulless and meaningless. But I don't know, I feel like if you start a game and that game is generic, that's a problem because you don't have any brand recognition or a casual audience that is already captured. XDefiant was generic from the start, at least the art direction, and I think that kind of annoyed everybody. I think it annoyed everybody. It had Tom Clancy attached to it for a bit because the Tom Clancy brand used to say something, used to mean something outside of its politics, which are definitely a thing. The Tom Clancy brand used to mean, realism, tactics, slow, right? Whatever. The old school Ghost Recon, Rainbow Six, and Splinter Cell games. And now it's just a brand name that means nothing. A Tom Clancy game could literally be anything at this point because Ubisoft hasn't been a good steward of the brand. So yeah, there's that. I don't know. Yeah, R6 is already a huge moneymaker. You kind of mentioned that. So it's like, do you really need to invest in another one? I don't know. It feels like it's not. But Ubisoft decided to, and I think it's one of those things where we could have told you from the beginning that it's just a better investment to do something that has a higher chance to succeed, but may not make you billions and billions of recurring dollars. But again, short-sighted executives make stupid, dumbass decisions, and then 277 people lose their jobs. And that's the thing is high risk, high reward. It's like, for whom? This is the second time that I have seen that somebody has talked about, and maybe people have used this phrase a lot over the years, but this is the second time I have read this in the past couple of months. The first time was in reference to Concord, because Sony brought it up in one of their quarterly reports. They said the live service game is high risk, high reward, but we're gonna when they dedicated themselves to shipping a first party game every year, they're like, that thing is more guaranteed to make money, but it's not going to make you as much money. So the high risk, high reward stuff, the live service stuff, we're not going to do as often because it's high risk, high reward. And it's like, again, so we're calling it high risk, high reward, but I think that's kind of it's risky because demand is there, but the demand is like ephemeral and weird and partly already captured. It's a red ocean that you're just trying to nudge your way into, right? Where single player games are finite and like Indiana Jones comes out today. It's getting good reviews. A lot of people aren't going to buy it today. But I don't know. I feel like Indiana I feel like it has a more of a chance to I don't know, do something down the road than a lot of these like live service games, because if they don't capture an audience, then they fail. Where Indiana Jones, you hope that it sells well off the bat, and then hopefully you can sort of make money on it in the years ahead, even if you have to put it on sale or whatever. But so yeah, back to my original point. It's like who is taking the risk? Because it's not Yves Guillemot, it's not any of the executives. No. It's not Sergey Haskell, because he's not with the company anymore. So it's like who is taking the risk? It's artists and developers.
It's Ubisoft San Francisco.
It's Ubisoft San Francisco.
Who gave us South Park, The Fractured But Whole.
Yeah, it's normal
and
developers.
Then gave us XDefiant.
Yeah, it's everyday developers that are taking the risk. It's not executives and global head of marketing people and whatever. It's average everyday developers.
President of video game operations.
Yeah, it's the people that form the bedrock of Ubisoft that are taking the risk. So I roll my eyes when we talk about it's high risk, high reward, as if that's supposed to be like, I don't know, a good thing or just the nature of the business. There's nothing we can do. But it's like, well, we can mitigate that risk by making smarter fucking decisions, like not doing stupid shit like this in the first place. And then maybe 277 people don't lose their jobs. I don't know. Maybe those people got their jobs for XDefiant, and maybe that's a different discussion. But yeah, if we're going to start using this high risk, high reward thing, which maybe that's been a thing for a long time, I don't know. I've seen it pop up a couple times recently. We should talk about who is taking the risk, because again, it's not Strauss Zelnick, it's not Yves Guillemot, it's not name your CEO executive. It's everyday random working people, average working people in the games industry, and that sucks that they have to take that risk. And they don't get the reward either. I'm sure game developers get well paid, but the people that get rewarded for these risks are not the people taking the risks. So I don't want to hear about it. High risk, high reward, okay? And an artist working on XDefiant is not, an artist working on Call of Duty or a programmer or a coder is not going to become a multi-millionaire. Who is? Phil Spencer, whoever the hell's the CEO of Activision Blizzard. Excuse me. Is there anything else you want to say about this? Sorry.
Fuck you, Ubisoft.
Well, hold that thought, because we have another story here.
Oh boy.
Ubisoft is seeking a buyout. This is according to Reuters, saying shareholders are considering how to structure a possible buyout without reducing the Guillemot family's control. The Guillemot family has been in talks with recently with Tencent and other investors recently about funding a management-led buyout, but the family wants to retain its control over the company. As Reuters previously reported, these buyout talks come as minority shareholders push for either a take-private sale or a sale to a strategic investor. And by take-private, I believe they mean specifically private equity. I'm not sure. That may not be that specific, but I know that in the past, Reuters also reported that there were, there were minority investors who wanted to shift to private equity. So maybe that's part of the discussion here. What? I don't know. I do have a few thoughts here. So, but off the top, I would just say, private equity is one of those ghouls that's sort of one of those sharks circling around the games industry right now. And they've gotten their teeth into certain areas, but that isn't a good thing. And if Ubisoft were to sell to private equity or something like that, Ubisoft would only become worse. It would only get worse. Private equity does not buy into things to make it better. It buys into, if private equity is flying an airplane, they sell the parts and toss out the passenger. Well, they keep the passengers in the plane. They sell the parts, they sell the chair, the
They sell the
seats.
parachutes.
They sell the parachutes, except for the executives. They load the airplane with debt by taking out loans and shit, and then just enough to keep to keep the airplane flying. And then before they sell the engine and the fucking wings, they jump out with their parachutes.
Yeah.
And their bags of money. So that's what private equity does. That's what corporations do in general, but private equity is really cutthroat when it comes to that shit. So yeah, if Ubisoft were to sell to a private equity company, it would just be a disaster, and I'm sure it would just lead to even more layoffs and shit like that, which is annoying. Ubisoft, I think, has potential. You think about the IPs, they have Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Rainbow Six, Splinter Cell, Ghost Recon. All of these IPs, while some of them have not performed well in the past, we can talk about Ghost Recon, I think they have potential if they were, if Ubisoft sort of gets out of its own way. Ghost Recon does not need to be a live service game. Get over it, stop it, just stop it. It doesn't need to be. So quit jamming things into it to try and find a live service angle. And I think go back to your roots. If tomorrow Ubisoft announced a Ghost Recon game that was a tactical co-op shooter, I think it would be praised, and I think a lot of people would be excited. And I think there's a demand for that. Now, is there the same demand that there is for bullshit Call of Duty clones? No, probably not. But if you want to make a sustainable business, I think that's a move that could net you some sustainable income. One thing I'm curious about is the Splinter Cell remake. The Splinter Cell remake is out there somewhere. Last time I checked, it was still out there. I don't think it's been officially canceled or anything like that. I didn't Google it today. I probably should have. But I think if the Splinter Cell remake is something that could be more successful than Ubisoft thinks, because of how we have seen how successful other games have been. Now, maybe it turns out to be a Dead Space thing where it comes out, it's successful, but the company is stupid, so it decides not to go that route. But Dead Space was also horror, right? Survival horror. So, and the original Dead Space, I don't think had the same following as like Resident Evil. So with Splinter Cell is, there aren't very many games like Splinter Cell right now. There are no games like Splinter Cell. You have stealth action, open world stealth action games, but nothing like the original Splinter Cell right now that I can think of. Maybe the closest thing is Metal Gear Solid 5. Definitely nothing AAA. If there's smaller games that have elements of Splinter Cell, maybe. But yeah, there's nothing like it, which means that the market, it's a blue ocean, right? And I think if you fill that with a Splinter Cell remake, that's probably something that's going to be super popular because people who have played the original game are back, and also it's sort of a new type of game that we haven't seen in, I don't know, almost a decade. So I think there's a ton of potential there for Ubisoft to have sort of this hit that it doesn't know it has, assuming they do that well, and assuming they can get out of their own way. I don't know. How does that change the game? No idea. Maybe it doesn't change it at all. Maybe it comes out and sells really well, but it doesn't matter. And then, of course, there's Assassin's Creed Shadows that I think Ubisoft is relying on for to be a hit because Star Wars Outlaws wasn't. But yeah, you look like you were going to say something just now. No, you weren't going to say anything?
Sorry, what? Internet cut out for a second.
Oh, you look like you were going to say something.
Oh, I was going to say that with Ubisoft seeking a buyout, they really need to start producing, especially if the Guillemot family wants to maintain control. Because if an investor is going to come in and drop a lot of money on this, because it's a major company, they have to prove that they're still able to produce these high quality games that they used to be known for. And if they don't do that, whoever's dropping this money isn't going to want to keep the current people in power because they're not doing their jobs right.
Yeah.
So you need to release a successful Ghost Recon, you need to release a successful Splinter Cell, a successful Assassin's Creed, another successful Far Cry, and you can't Ubisoft it up halfway through.
Yeah. I just Googled it real quick. And Insider Gaming, Mike Straw reported in October that the Splinter Cell remake is in progress. It's quiet. It's a stealthy, if you will.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was really stupid, and I apologize. No, but it's gone quiet, but apparently it's still underway. So that's Insider Gaming. Yeah. So I mean, there's not a whole lot to go on right now, and maybe that's something where maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe Game Awards next year we get something. I don't know. I would be surprised if we saw something this year. But again, just speculation. Unless you had a thought you were about to fire off.
I was going to say, even if Ghost Recon, or even if Ubisoft decide to go back to their roots and release these more like grounded Ghost Recon, a more like stealth then action oriented Splinter Cell, I trust and believe that Ubisoft would still find a way to fuck it up.
I mean, I'm kind of there with Ubisoft because I just don't believe in Yves as a leader.
Yeah.
Obviously, partly because of just their output, but also because, you know, he suffered no consequences from their cultural fallout, but except for being embarrassed during an investor QA. But the thing I wanted to say about Splinter Cell,
they had a quadruple A game release.
Oh yeah, that's true. They had the first ever
quadruple A game.
Quadruple A game, and they also had an NFT game released. So
I'm surprised. I'm surprised that Devolver Digital hasn't been like the world's first 10A game.
I'm sure that's something that they might do.
It's going to be announced at Game Awards.
Yeah, something like that. And then it's just Ape Out 2.
It's a side scrolling.
It's just Ape Out 2, you know, and it's basically the same game as the first one. It's just a little more intense or something like that's
a little jazzier.
Yeah, a little jazzier. Yeah, it's just Ape Out 2, this time with more jazz. 5A game.
There's 2 drummers now.
Yeah, there we go. It's free. Well, I guess the last one was freeform jazz. I don't know. This time even more jazz, something like that. I don't know. But instead of JAZZ, it's like JAAAAAAZZ.
Oh, jazz.
Yeah, so you could say it's like a quadruple A game and then jazz. Anyway, sorry. No, Ubisoft. The Splinter Cell. Did you ever play Ape Out?
I loved it.
Oh yeah, I really liked it too. That's a game I actually would it would be fun to go back to. Because that was difficult, but it was a lot of fun. Violent, but it was a lot of fun and really.
And I listen to the soundtrack at least once a month.
Oh really? The Ape Out soundtrack?
Yeah, it's so good.
Nice. Okay. What was the title song? That song was so good. Yeah, I forget too. It's like You Gotta Get Out or something like that.
I think so.
I forget the musician's name. He's probably a famous. I don't know music, so. But anyway, the point I was going to make about the Splinter Cell remake is, the Splinter Cell remake seems like something that it doesn't need to be a $200 million budgeted game. It doesn't have to be that big. Most of Splinter Cell is played in black and white, you know, because you have your night vision goggles on, or green. So, and it's played at night. So it's like you don't need incredible visuals. So I feel like the things that you need to focus on Splinter Cell is getting the stealth perfect, getting the level design really good, updating certain things about the original game, maybe making the levels a little more dynamic. You don't have to make Hitman. It doesn't need to be Hitman. But, you don't need to make photorealistic graphics. That doesn't need to happen. So it's like, I'd be very disappointed if the Splinter Cell remake comes out and it's a $250 million game because they needed to render, you know, every weave of fabric on Sam's suit or something like that. That would bother me, because that is a game that it doesn't need to have incredible visuals. It just doesn't. It needs good lighting, which I don't know, whatever.
Can be intensive.
Yeah, it can be intensive, but
Oh, go ahead.
Nope.
I was about to say something off topic.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, as I was going to say, I don't want to get you too excited, but there's an Ape Out vinyl.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Huh. Methinks I'll have a look at that after the show. Okay, moving on. Future has signed a deal with OpenAI. Future is the publisher of
Gross.
Games Radar, PC Gamer, and Edge Magazine. Announced by OpenAI, the deal will somehow bring Future's content to new audiences while enhancing the ChatGPT experience, or something like that. ChatGPT users will have access to content across Future's portfolio with attribution and links to the full original articles for transparency and more info. Future publishes, as I said, PC Gamer, Games Radar, Edge, and Retro Gamer. The two companies have previously worked together by deploying chatbots that they say help users engage more deeply with content, whatever that means. As game developers Chris Kerr pointed out, in November, a group of Canadian news outlets filed a lawsuit against ChatGPT, accusing the company of illegally using articles to train its AI. And then the New York Times, a little more famously, sued OpenAI and Microsoft for copyright infringement as well. And who knows what's going on with those lawsuits? I have no idea. So this, this makes me sad.
I will not trust ChatGPT until it can definitively tell me how many R's are in strawberry.
I knew you were gonna say that. I'm sure if you typed it in now, it would probably
but
it was funny. It was funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
sorry, and the fact that like if you actually like try to use it as an advanced search engine, there's a not 0% chance. There's a greater than 0% chance that it will just make shit up. And if you ask for sources, it will give you a source, but whatever it just said is not related whatsoever to the source it's providing you.
I tried a little bit to use it as a search engine. I didn't find it useful. I need to use it more. But the thing is, like, ChatGPT and generative AIs are a tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're a tool. So I think whether or not they're good or bad all depends on their implementation. But at the same time, you have the sort of financial side behind them. And that is, there is a shit ton of money being poured into AI right now because a bunch of people don't know if it's going to work, but they want to make money if it does. They don't really believe in anything. They just... Sam Altman says it's going to change the world. So, okay, I'll invest my $3 million and I want my return. Sam Altman could be selling, I don't know, fucking ham sandwiches, but he says these ham sandwiches are going to give me a 6-pack permanently. So it's like, sure, I'll invest $3 million. I don't give a shit about the thing that he's making. It just needs to make my return.
It was right there. He's selling snake oil.
Oh, sorry. I mean, there's that too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. Yeah, maybe it's I don't care what it does because I know it doesn't do anything. It just needs to somehow make money. So maybe that's another. But anyway, but this does sort of bother me because it's like, what? I don't know. How are you engaged? What does engage with content mean? It's just a meaningless word. It's a meaningless corporate word that means nothing, to be redundant. And I don't know, that it bothers me because we already have a fragmented and sort of problematic relationship with information. Not a new idea. And breaking it down into bite-sized pieces doesn't always work. Like, not everything is going to be able to be digested in bite-sized pieces, no matter how much social media and TikTok and Twitter and Blue Sky want it to be. Not everything not all information can be delivered that way.
Maybe we can kill ChatGPT by asking it to break down War and Peace and Crime and Punishment to bite-sized tidbits.
But yeah, like, not everything can be delivered that way. Not nuance can't be communicated that way. And I don't think it's I don't know. I don't think it's a good thing that everything is fit into that context.
Mm-hmm.
You know, good journalism is sometimes requires a lot of gradations and a lot of degrees, which means a lot of words and sentences to think about. And, you know, you're not always going to be able to get it like that. But again, we are not encountering a better way to take in information, right? Like, I don't think that's what this is. I don't think ChatGPT or generative AI or large language models, whatever, are providing a better way to absorb information and understand it. Maybe to help us in some ways, maybe ChatGPT can help you. Maybe other AIs can help you. I don't know. Whatever the hell Meta's AI is called. Whatever the hell the other
the Zuck.
I don't off the top of my head. I don't remember. But like whatever they're called, I'm sure there are ways that they can help you. They're tools. But this idea that they are you know, paradigm changers, it's hard for me to believe. And I think, and again, my skepticism is based on the fact that a lot of people have investment in this thing, and so that's their motivation, is to somehow make a return on that investment, right? And it's the same thing with NFTs. You know, NFTs exist because people have money and they want to make money. So it really wasn't to, you know, NFTs and blockchains. It really wasn't about a better way to do things. I'm sure a lot of people would argue that, but it was more about people have investments and they want to cash out. So we have
the people that are making the argument that like it was a better way to do XYZ are the people that got stuck with the bag.
Yeah, exactly. Especially
they're the ones that they're in denial about it because they want to believe that the investment was still sound, even though all their rips are gone.
Yeah. And also it bothers me because I don't know, like I guess I'm just being redundant, but I don't want to read a summarization of news. Sometimes, like, I don't know, I feel like there is something to reading an article, the entire thing. I don't know. There is something about that. Like, I don't want a summarization. You lose things in a summarization. One of the examples I use is a box score. It's like you can read a box score for any game, a baseball game, a football game, whatever. And ostensibly, you know everything that happened. You know the plays. You can go a play-by-play box score that shows you everything. And it can get pretty detailed, but it's like you not seeing it happen and feeling the energy. You experience it in a different way, and you take in the information a different way. And so while you see similar images, those two things are different, right? So it's like, you know, it's one thing to read that Aaron Judge made an error in center field. It's another thing to watch him drop an easy line drive, and as the Yankees, completely implode in the Game 5 of the World Series. But that's neither here nor there. So
it's one thing to see. Sorry, lag now. It's one thing to see in a box score that Auburn won by 6 points at the end of the game. It's another thing to watch a kick six happen.
Sure, yeah, there's that. And I think it's sort of the same thing with journalism, but with news, I think so much of our conversation today is based on people getting bite-sized information and then sort of connecting the dots in their head. So they know like this piece of information, this piece of information, this piece of information, and then everything else is sort of filled in, right? Whether their own intuition or their own opinions, confirmation bias, whatever it is, instead of having like a full brick of information. I don't know. I think there's something to that. And again, the reason it's happening is because people have investment in it, not because it's necessarily a better way to take in information or anything like that. And, you know, this isn't good for games journalism. Games journalism is getting trickier and trickier. The Verge is now moving to a subscription base. Jason Schreier's Game On newsletter is moving to a subscription based. Steven Totillo. And listen, I don't fault any of them. They got to make money. They got to stay in business. So it's like, but it is a problem. It is a problem that so much of games journalism is moving, journalism in general, but also games journalism is moving behind paywalls. Because there are only so many people that are going to buy that, and when you put information behind paywalls, I think it's naturally going to cut off large chunks of an audience. I don't know, and that makes things more difficult. That makes communication more difficult. That makes it more difficult to give people more complex ways of thinking about video games, and that's not a good thing. So yeah, anything you want to say?
No, I think we covered it.
Do you have tidbits by chance? You're laughing.
Yeah.
You do?
I have one tidbit.
All right, I'm gonna play the sounder. Tidbit. I'm gonna play the sounder as soon as I find it here. Oh, here it is. What if I told you in this world there are bits and there are tids, and Richard is the only man who can put them together into tidbits. All right, shoot.
Joining the likes of Space Marine 2, Bloons Tower Defense 6, and a third game that I can't think of right now that's also hilariously equally funny in this part. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 is now on the woke list of games.
Give me the breakdown. What did first of all, fuck Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 and every single person that did even an inch of work on it, right? They're all woke. They're all communist, fascist, socialist, capitalist garbage. All right.
Yep.
Now, what is the crimes, Connor? What are the crimes?
Despite an old study from like 20 plus years ago that 90% of commercial airline pilots are white men.
Yeah.
You can play as a non-white man.
That's unacceptable.
How dare they?
We need historically accurate depictions of. We need historically accurate, demographically and historically accurate depictions of pilots in a modern flight sim, or else that's forced diversity, and that's an issue.
Never mind the fact that it encapsulates the entire world, and that study was one country. Forget that.
Was it the United States?
Yes.
Okay.
Forget that. It's unacceptable that they thought they could get away with it.
Well, shame on them. Shame on Phil Spencer for letting this happen. Shame upon your house. If I were Klingon, I'd do the X and I'd turn my back on you. Have you ever been on a flight where you weren't confident in the pilot?
I don't think I've seen the pilot on any of the last 10 flights I've gone on.
So a couple months ago, I flew. It wasn't on a 747. It was a smaller airplane. It was sort of the next step down from a 747.
737?
No, I don't remember what it's called. It's like a smaller airplane. And it's only for like, I was flying from Tulsa to Phoenix, so it was sort of already like a small market that doesn't require like a big airplane, so it made sense. But I remember I had the pilot that I had, he sounded younger, so maybe it's like one of those things where pilots early in their careers, they get like the, short, small market flights, and then once you're a pilot that's flown for like 30 years, that's when you're flying across the Pacific and the Atlantic or whatever. I don't know. But this pilot, he sent in a message something like he announced we were gonna have turbulence, and it was like he was doing his best to do his pilot voice, but he didn't have the cadence down. So he's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to hit some turbulence. So I'm gonna turn on the fasten seatbelt sign, and we'll get you, and he just cut off. like he hadn't practiced his like, how do I end this sentence? So he just bailed out of his like, don't worry, everything's gonna be fine. And then as I left the flight, he was on his phone. So I was like, okay, this guy's playing Candy Crush, and he's got his phone propped up. And yeah,
Tyler, he's not playing Candy Crush. He's flying across the country. He's playing Pokemon Go. He's getting all the different stops.
He's like, as he's flying, he's like pointing his phone down. He's like, ah, shit, getting so many Pikachus right now. Anyway.
You say Pikachu.
I don't know. It's the old Pikachus and Charizard.
Pikachu.
It's not Pikachu.
No, it's Pikachu.
Well, I pronounce it like Ego
like
Raptor.
like a middle-aged white dad.
Or like Ego Raptor. Pikachu. You know, like Ego Raptor. Anyway. Follow us, youtube.com/gaming discourse, patreon.com/gaming discourse. New videos soon. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Bye.